Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Backblaze and Linode. I'm John Voorhees, and with me, as always, is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well today, Federico.
Mm-hmm.
As we get started, Federico, I think we got to do a little follow-up before we dive into today's topic. And we launched something on Mac Stories just towards the end of last week that I think we ought to just cover real quickly. Why don't you the lead on that?
Yeah, so we've been teasing this for quite some time, and last week on Mac Stories we launched the second major product under the Mac Stories Pixel brand. So here's the short version of the story. We have a brand new version of perspective icons. So Mac Stories perspective icons. These are, I guess, the most comprehensive set of custom icons for customizing your perspectives in OmniFocus Pro. So whether you use OmniFocus Pro on iOS, iPadOS, or macOS, you can customize your perspectives by changing their icons with this set. Now, you may remember that years ago, Sylvia and I, we launched the Perspective Icons, the first version, and Perspective Icons 2. And then we took a bit of a pause from that product for a few years, and we've completely redesigned and relaunched it under the new Mac Stories Pixel brand. And what's new and different and unique about this new version of Mac Stories Perspective Icons is that it contains 20,000 icons. So that's
Wow.
really the best way to describe it. It contains 20,000. This is not a typo or a mistake. It's 20,000 icons that you can choose from. So here's the deal. 400 unique glyphs, right? So
Right.
400 unique images, symbols, call them whatever you want to call them. Available in 2 versions, and each version in 25 different colors.
Wow.
So basically what we've done, what Sylvia has done, really an incredible job. These 400 glyphs, she made them available at first in 2 different versions. So matching the aesthetic of OmniFocus Pro, you can choose to install the icon as the icon alone or the icon contained within a square glyph. If you take a look at the default perspectives in OmniFocus Pro, you'll see that the Omni group uses these glyphs inside like the shape of an icon.
Right.
And that's basically what we offer. So you can either choose to install the glyph alone, the symbol alone, or the symbol contained within the square icon shape. So 2 versions. Then what we did was we added support because we figured if we want to do the most comprehensive set for OmniFocus Pro, we might as well go all the way. So we support all the 24 different colors that you can choose from in the OmniFocus Pro Perspective Icon Customizer. So the complete color palette of OmniFocus Pro is matched by the perspective icons. So 24 native colors, plus 1, which is black, because we thought, some people just want to use monochrome, and OmniFocus Pro does not come with a black version, so we figured let's make it 25, and we'll also throw in a black version. So if you do the math, 400 unique symbols, 2 versions, 25 different colors, that's 20,000 unique icon files.
That is a lot of files to keep track of, I'm sure, as this was being put together.
It's a lot of files to keep track of, but thankfully Sylvia organized the entire. So once you purchase the icon set and you open the download file, you will see that everything is organized by folder, by type, by color. So it's very easy to browse, and of course you can take advantage of the Finder search, of file search if you're using the iPhone or iPad. And you can search within a specific folder, or you can search across all folders. So like if you search for, document markdown, you will see all versions of that icon in all possible colors and shapes. Also, we designed this icon set to make it super easy for you to customize the icons in OmniFocus Pro. So OmniFocus Pro, I keep saying Pro because it's the only version of OmniFocus that lets you customize the icons for your perspectives. So you will, there's details on the OmniFocus website as to what the differences are between standard OmniFocus and OmniFocus Pro. But to customize the icons, you need OmniFocus Pro. And fortunately, in the latest version of OmniFocus, so version 3.8, on iOS and iPadOS, you are no longer limited when it comes to installing these icons by the fact that previously you could only import the icons from photos. Now, just like in shortcuts, you can customize an icon by picking a file from the Files app. So
that's
both
nice.
on the iPhone and iPad, when you customize an icon, a Files picker comes up. So literally all you need to do is download the icon set and place it somewhere in the Files app, and then you can just navigate there from OmniFocus and pick the icon you want to use. So it couldn't be easier. So yeah, 20,000 icons. I've been having so much fun customizing all my perspectives in OmniFocus Pro. Really part of the reason why I convinced Silvia that this needed to be a product was I started using OmniFocus months ago, and I was very much dissatisfied with the default icons and the icons that I could find on the web.
Sure.
So I was like, I need you to make some icons for me. And so that's basically how I went. And then we just went from there. So we're also running a launch discount now. So you can get at a discount for a limited time. And I just hope that, I know that there's lots of OmniFocus users that listen to app stories and they read Mac stories. So this is, we made this product for people like you. If you love OmniFocus, I guess you also love its perspective functionality. And if you do, then I guess you also want to make it your own and personalize it. And this is why this icon set exists.
Right. And that's why it fits so well with Perspectives, really, because Perspectives really is about customizing the app to suit your particular needs, right? And the fact that all the colors are available makes it even that more powerful and flexible for users, which I just love because these icons fit in so neatly with the app. You wouldn't even know that they weren't part of the default set, but there are 400 additional ones that you can use. And they now with 400 different glyphs, it really covers just about anything you can imagine that you would want to have as a perspective, I think.
Yeah, you have all kinds of categories. You have, the productivity classics. You have like icons that represent like a parallel and sequential projects, for example, in OmniFocus.
Right.
You have health and fitness. You have office related things. You have entertainment, family stuff, all kinds of categories. So I know you have all those native colors as well. So you can really install them and use just the right colors, and you will not be able to tell the difference that this is like a third party icon set, because sometimes you download like a custom icon from the web, but you can tell that it's like an extraneous type of modification. But these icons, they just feel native because they are literally the same colors that OmniFocus uses, and Silvia has been working like for months to make sure that it's the exact same colors, and even if you open the preview, you will see the exact same order that they are in OmniFocus. Like she cares about the details probably more than I do, and I tend to be a little obsessive about these things, and she's worse or better than me, depending on your point of view here. But yeah, I think if you love OmniFocus, I think you're gonna like this set.
Yeah, she's done an amazing job with this. And of course, I'll put a link in the show notes to the announcement post we had on Mac Stories so that people can check them out if they haven't done so already. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Backblaze, the unlimited computer backup solution for Macs and PCs. For just $6 a month, Backblaze has you covered, backing up your documents, music, photos, videos, drawings, projects, and a whole lot more. Basically everything that matters to you on your computer. What's more, you can restore files from anywhere. You can download directly from the web or even purchase a restore hard drive that Backblaze will send to you overnight by FedEx. After you restore your files with that drive, you can send it back to Backblaze for a refund. They even have mobile apps for accessing and downloading your files on the go. I've been a customer of Backblaze for over 7 years, and I absolutely love it. The app runs invisibly and efficiently in the background, keeping all of my files off-site and safe in case I ever need them. I've been so happy with the service that I've even bought a couple of extra subscriptions for my 2 sons who have gone off to college so that their files are safe and sound too. With over 50 billion files restored for customers and over an exabyte of backed up data, Backblaze really knows what it's doing. Get a free, fully featured 15-day trial with no credit card required at backblaze.com/appstories. Back up your stuff today, folks. You won't regret it. Again, that URL so they know that you're coming from App Stories is backblaze.com/appstories. Check it out today. Our thanks to Backblaze for their support of the show. All right, Federico, I think today we are going to continue our series of WWDC Wishes.
Okay.
And, if you recall, I guess it's been a couple of weeks ago, we did our iPad OS wishes. And we've got wishes in a bunch of different categories here, but today we're gonna jump to watchOS and tvOS. And we actually do have wishes in tvOS. You might think that tvOS hasn't changed much, but that's exactly why we have wishes. We have things we'd like to see Apple do there as well. So I think though, why don't we kick it off by talking about watchOS? I'd like to just throw out there right off the bat something that we've heard rumored, which is a fitness app. And I'm not sure exactly where this will end up, but I feel like as much as I enjoy the Workouts app, I use it all the time. I would like something that's a little deeper than what we currently have. I mean, is that something that that you'd use, do you think?
You're thinking something like guided recommendations and like those workout apps that actually show you like videos and teach you how to work out.
Right.
Yeah, I would love to see something like that, because if anything, Apple is the kind of company with the kind of resources that they could do something, of course, very professional and also localized in hundreds of different languages, possibly.
Right.
And usually when you download these apps, most of them, if you want to get the high quality apps with the guided videos and training sessions, most of them are in English, right? They're not localized. They don't have
Right.
they don't have a local version for you. At least the apps that I tried in the past. And I would love to have something in Italian. I would love to have something that is high quality and that does not require me to pay an additional subscription. Because you can make the argument that maybe Apple could go the subscription route and have like something Apple Sports Plus or Apple Fitness Plus and be like an additional subscription to contribute to their services revenue. But I really think if they do this, it's going to be a free and open thing that everybody can use. And so I would love to see,
so too.
I would love to see Apple get into this stuff and have actual like best practices and training sessions and videos and workout timers, all these kinds of things that to get you started if you don't know what you're doing, right? I think it would be a fantastic addition to the whole ecosystem of fitness features that they have.
Yeah, it feels like a natural progression. I mean, right now we have dozens of categories of fitness activities that are tracked from your wrist, but we don't have, guided sessions. Now, I think I'm a little doubtful that this will actually happen this year. However, we are talking about wishes, so these are not predictions. These are just things I'd like to see, and it feels like something that's kind of inevitable, and I'd like to see it sooner rather than later.
So I shared some of my watchOS wishes in a recent episode of Connected, and I wanted to put together a bunch more for a proper wish list here. So on Connected,
Okay.
I just want to go through the things that I already mentioned on Connected.
Sure.
Make it easier to perform a software update for people who use multiple Apple Watches. I know that I'm in the minority here, but I do use two separate Apple Watches. I have a day watch and a night watch, mostly because I keep an old watch around that I only use for sleep tracking at night. So I have an old Series 4, the one from last year, that I use as my night watch, and I have the new Series 5 that I use as my primary watch during the day. And I like that I have two separate Apple Watches, because it means I always have an Apple Watch on me, and I never have to worry about recharging the watch and not wearing one on my wrist for like 30 minutes, because I just take the second one and it's already charged, and I can just put the other one on the charger and so forth. But when I want to run a software update, because of automatic pairing, which is a feature of the iPhone that allows the device to automatically switch between multiple Apple Watches, because of that, if you remove an Apple Watch from your wrist after starting a software update, because the watch tells you got to put me on the charger, because of automatic pairing, the moment that you put on the second watch, software update pauses on the first watch. And so it's a whole dance of disabling automatic pairing and running software update. Some people on Twitter told me you can work around this by turning off the second watch. But at that point, we're back to square one. I don't want to turn off my second watch. I always want to have an active, turned on watch on my wrist. So I wish that they could make it easier. Software update and automatic pairing could probably work better together. I also mentioned how I would love to have a QWERTY traditional keyboard on the Apple Watch, like a standard software keyboard to type stuff instead of having to dictate messages or scribbling them. I feel like we've seen that this idea can be done. It's possible. FlickType is an excellent example of bringing a traditional keyboard to the Apple Watch. The app is consistently at the top in the top 5 or something, top 10 of the top paid apps for the Apple Watch. And usually Apple tends to pay attention to what third-party utilities people tend to spend money on these days. And it's not unusual for Apple to come in and say, we know that there's demand for this type of stuff, so we're just going to Sherlock them and offer our own integrated solution. And I really do hope that, and I would feel sad for the FlickType developer, but I really do hope that the Apple Watch eventually gains a native software keyboard for those times when you don't want to scribble, you don't want to talk, you just want to type. And I feel like it can be done, especially if you are smart with autocorrect and switching between multiple languages like on the iPhone. I really think it could be done. And I also mentioned how I would like to see a redesign of the dock because I don't like the vertical carousel. I feel like it's kind of slow and clunky to navigate. I just would like to see something like an app switcher from the iPad. So a grid of tiles, a grid of little apps that I could scroll horizontally. And nothing fancy, really. I just feel like I want to see more at a time. And the dock only shows me a couple of windows, but they're partially hidden because of the 3D animation that they have going on. I just would like to see a flat grid of tiny thumbnails, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. And
yeah, I agree. I have that problem all the time. Just you feel like you're scrolling endlessly between the various things in the dock.
And it's not fast, and the dock is meant to show you, like, to give you quick access to your favorite apps. And I just feel like it does give you access, but it's not quick enough because you have to be so careful with scrolling, and you only see half of the window of an app, basically. Yeah, I just prefer the grid layout. And lastly, this is an idea that I just had a few days ago. I think it would be nice to rethink the role of the digital crown on the watch face. Right now, the crown you can use to, if you spin the crown on the watch face, you can wake up the display, basically, and you can dim the display or you can wake it from sleep, which I totally forgot that this existed because I never use it. I never use this feature. I always wake the watch by either tapping the display or just flicking my wrist. I never use the crown. The crown, years ago, it used to activate the time travel feature back in the days of watchOS 2, but that was removed like a year later. So the crown is basically unused, personally speaking, right now. And I would like to have a feature that lets me use the crown to cycle through different complications on the same watch face. So I always want to keep the same watch face, but I so wish that I could have more complications on that watch face. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I would like to have multiple modes for the same face. And I want to switch between those modes by spinning the crown. Yes, I know that I could replicate the watch face and install different complications and switch between watch faces by long pressing the watch face and swiping on screen. I just think that it would be faster and more natural to use the crown and basically flick between different versions of the same watch face. So different complication sets that I could scroll through using the crown on the watch face.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea because you could switch between watch faces by doing the same left and right motion that you use now, but use the crown to go between different versions of the same watch face.
Yeah. And I really dislike the swiping thing to change watch faces. I think it's really slow and kind of clunky, and it's not, because it's a customization screen. It's not really like a quick gesture to switch between watch faces, right? And of course, you cannot swipe with 2 fingers on the watch because it doesn't support multi-touch. Like on the iPad, for example, you can swipe with 3 fingers and you switch between apps instantly. On the watch, it feels like you're entering this customization screen, and then you can switch watch faces, which is really clunky.
You can actually switch without
Yeah, does it? I know, but does it really work? for you?
Well, it does, but I think I have to do it. Like if I'm doing it right now, I'm doing it very deliberately, and
It
it's
never
working
works.
fine.
Exactly. If like I do it during the day, it never works.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, because I've had many times where I've raised my wrist and it just hasn't actually worked, because either it didn't, I didn't light up the screen, or I started swiping before the screen was completely active, or whatever it happens to be. So I agree it could be easier. It is a little clunky.
Yeah.
Speaking of complications, I really feel like I'd like to see complications do what we've always kind of hoped notifications would do, and just get smarter. Like, have them based on the time, make it easier for them to be based on the time of day, your location, or your activity. Maybe I have in my calendar that I've scheduled a fitness class, at 2 p.m. and I want my fitness related complications to show up at 2 p.m. because I've got this class. Or maybe I just want something different, a different set of them at night than I have in the morning. And there are ways to do things like this. I mean, we've seen Home Run do something similar to this, and WatchSmith do some of this kind of thing. But I'd like to see it integrated at a system level instead of at an individual app level. That would be great. And I still hold out hope someday that we'll get smarter notifications too, that kind of learn about the patterns in our lives and what we do and when we do it, and surface things when we need them. But that really hasn't hardly been touched, that Siri watch face, in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of am not super optimistic that we'll see much happening there anytime soon.
Yeah. This is probably kind of obvious coming from me, but I really wish that shortcuts came back to the watch. Or rather, that
Yes.
shortcuts came to the watch, period, because Workflow used to be a watch app, and Shortcuts was never a watch app.
Right.
When Apple transitioned from Workflow to Shortcuts, they removed the native Apple Watch app. And I would love to have a proper Shortcuts app on the watch for a couple of reasons. First, because I really dislike the current system, which is in theory based on Siri suggestions that, again, in theory, should offer you to it should suggest a shortcut on the Siri watch face based on time of day and other criteria. In practice, I've never seen this work for me. You can run shortcuts from the watch using Siri, just the regular Siri voice activation, and that's fine.
Right.
But those shortcuts execute on the iPhone, and they may show you feedback on the watch, but you don't get any UI on the watch, basically. I also think that shortcuts on the watch could be useful as a way to create complications based on shortcuts. So imagine an individual shortcut becoming a complication. And I could have all kinds of use cases for this, right? I could make a coffee tracker complication. I could make send a quick message to my girlfriend type of shortcut that is also a complication. I just feel like Apple has a system already in place to sort of make what WatchSmith is, if only they adapted shortcuts to work for the watch and added complications as a new extension type for shortcut. I could imagine a scenario in which you design your own complications using shortcuts, and that would be sort of incredible.
Let me ask you a question though.
Sure.
Do you think that the reason that shortcuts never came to the watch was because of Siri, that because that year happened to be the year when Apple was really pushing Siri and Siri shortcuts became a thing? Do you think that's what's going on there, or why do you think that was removed as a watch?
I think it was removed because at the time it just didn't really work well, and there were a bunch of memory issues and problems with some heavy shortcuts like mine, for example, just running out of memory.
It's your fault then.
I know, but like some of those shortcuts with like base 64 stuff in them.
I was gonna say you can't put base 64 on an Apple Watch.
I know, but that they were running out of memory, and they would crash, and
Sure.
it was not a good experience. And I also think that yes, they wanted, when they relaunched Workflow as shortcuts, they wanted to put the emphasis on Siri, right? Like they were saying, you can run your Siri shortcuts with just one single voice command, And I feel like it was a combination of things. watchOS was not good enough for shortcuts yet, and they wanted to put the emphasis on Siri, and they still believed in the Siri watch face. And so I figured, it'll come back eventually, but now they want to focus on this aspect. But it hasn't come back. And so I think it should come back as a way to design your own complications. And here's the second part. It should come back as a standalone watch app that it's like, imagine Home Run, so the excellent HomeKit app for the watch that we mentioned many, many times here on App Stories.
Right.
Imagine Home Run, but for shortcuts, right? So a grid of your shortcuts that you can fully customize, make some shortcuts bigger, make some shortcuts smaller, change the colors, and you could just go in there and run the shortcut that you want to run, and you would have actual interactions on the watch. So like choosing from lists and entering text, either via dictation or again, via a keyboard. You could choose from menus. You could do all kinds of things. And I could imagine like having this new app that is entirely based on Swift UI. So it's modern, it's visually, nice to see, and it supports interactions. I would love to have that. I would actually love to have these kinds of watch updates in shortcuts this year. So to have shortcuts also become a way for you to fully customize your watch. And in addition to that, to also have a standalone shortcuts app on the watch that you can use, like I use a Home Run I tap it and it's super fast, and I can run my custom actions and my custom commands, and it gets out of the way in 10 seconds. I would love to have something like that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I'd like that a lot too. Another thing I'd like to see change is the honeycomb view for all of your apps. It's just something that looks better than it is practical. It just doesn't work very well. And I've moved to the list. But
you did?
Yeah, I did. I moved to the list, but I'm not super thrilled with that either because it's just a long list.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the best way to deal with it is, but maybe, the honeycomb view is just icons. Maybe if those icons were laid out in a grid that was maybe 3x3 or 4x4 or whatever it is, you could get through an awful lot of them with the digital crown without, having to pan around. Because I don't know about you, but I just don't have enough time in my day to organize yet another place where my apps are. I mean, I've got home screens and things on my iOS devices. I don't want to organize my honeycomb too.
Oh yeah, I've never done that. I just gave up on it years ago, and I just accepted that when I install a new watch app, it ends up somewhere on the honeycomb.
Somewhere on the edge, right?
Somewhere, yeah. And the stuff that I want to launch, I basically install complications for them. Just a couple of days ago, I realized that I wanted to use Shazam on the watch, but I don't have a Shazam complication. And so that led me to the whole idea of scrolling between different complication sets, because I wanted to install a Shazam complication on my watch face, but I didn't have enough room for it. And so I thought, wouldn't it be nice if the same watch, all that.
Yeah, no, that's I feel the same way because there's a category of complications that I never use, which are ones that I only need for a certain part of my day, because it feels like it's a wasted space if I only need it, say, in the morning, and then it's there all day long. I want to be able to kind of move these things around throughout the day so that I have, they become more useful to me. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Linode. Whether you're working on a personal project or managing your enterprise's infrastructure, Linode has the pricing, support, and scale that you need to take your project to the next level. They have 11 data centers spread throughout the world, including their latest one in Sydney, Australia. And with their enterprise-grade hardware, S3-compatible storage option, and their next-generation network, Linode delivers the performance you expect at a surprisingly good price. Get started on Linode today with a $20 credit for listeners of this show, and you'll get access to dedicated CPU plans with physical cores reserved just for you, GPU compute plans suitable for AI, machine learning, and video processing, block storage and object storage that can scale to your storage requirements, one-click installs of the most popular apps including WordPress, LampStack, and game servers for Minecraft, and much more. Just go to linode.com/appstories and use the promo code AppStories2020 at checkout when creating your new Linode account. And you'll get that $20 credit towards your next project. Oh, and you know what? They're also hiring. So if you're interested in that, check out linode.com/careers to find out more. Once again, that URL, linode.com/appstories, and the promo code AppStories2020 for that $20 credit. Our thanks to Linode for their support of the show.
All right, should we talk about tvOS?
We should.
This is quite a surprise, but we do have some tvOS wishes. Who would have thought?
We do, and one of the things, I suppose this all goes back to the age-old adage that John has too many apps on his phone, which is I have too many apps on my Apple TV too.
Oh my God!
And
how? Why?
I don't know. I should probably just get rid of
How you don't? Oh my God!
Well, I don't do anything with them, Federico. They get installed and then I just leave them there. And the reality is that I really only use a couple of rows worth of apps. I've got the TV app, Netflix, Amazon Prime. They're the usual stuff, and they're almost all video apps that I use on a regular basis. I do use music once in a great while, though not so much these days with a HomePod on the nearby. But I do have games and things on there, and I do occasionally play a game on the Apple TV, and I just feel like maybe that UI though should be completely separate. That there really ought to be just a central UI that's nothing but video, that's dedicated to television, and everything else gets swept away somewhere else. Easily accessible, but not where you won't end up with games mixed in with video apps. Because I don't know about you, but I feel like 99% of my Apple TV use is watching video, and I think that that's probably pretty common. So I don't think it would inconvenience too many people by hiding it away somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Most of my tvOS wishes are related to the fact that I use my Apple TV a lot, but I use it for the really basic stuff. And I feel like despite the fact that it's been out for several years at this point, tvOS and the Apple TV UI, they still don't get many of the basics right. And so I was thinking about what are the things that the basic things that annoy me the most about tvOS. And the first one is I want to be able to more easily connect to my AirPods or just wireless headphones in general. Something that I really dislike about tvOS is that if I'm watching a video, right? So I'm in the video player, right, and I realize, I don't want to bother Sylvia anymore because she fell asleep. I want to put on AirPods. You cannot connect to headphones from the video player, right? Because if you the UI to bring up the volume output screen, which is invoked by long pressing the play button, that UI does not come up if you're watching a video. So every time I need to connect to my AirPods, I have to close the video player and go back to usually the home screen, because otherwise I cannot invoke the audio switcher menu, the audio output switcher menu. And that is slows me down so much. And I just wish that why can I not switch audio output from the video player? That's something that you can do on the iPhone, you can do it on the iPad, but you cannot do it on the Apple TV because there's no audio icon in the video player there. So I just think that's I really don't understand it.
Yeah, I have a related wish, which is I think that the Apple TV needs to integrate better with the HomePod too, because it makes a great soundbar basically, right? And I've always thought that Apple should probably make a soundbar at some point too, but that's a hardware discussion. I just feel like it needs to be easier to connect to the HomePod and stay connected to the HomePod, because it's a great device for listening to television.
Yeah. That I think that was rumored a while back, right? To have a persistent.
I think so. Yeah.
Another basic thing, the menu button on the Siri remote.
Right.
I really dislike how its behavior is inconsistent. In some apps, it does something. In other apps, it does something else. Sometimes when you press menu, you go back to the home screen. Sometimes when you press menu, you navigate back one level in whatever app you're using navigation system. So sometimes
that's the way it should always be. It should always be a back button, because
should
that's
it though?
The way. I think so, because isn't that? I think it ought to always be a back button, and then maybe if you then when you long press it, it takes you home. Because I think most other remotes work that way, that it goes one level at a time, and there's the shortcut would be holding it down. That's at least how I would like it.
Yeah. In any case, there should be a consistent behavior, because I keep forgetting that, oh, in this app, I press it and I go back to the, all the way to the home screen. Like I close the app, and in some other apps, I navigate back and forth between multiple levels of the navigation stack. So I just would like it to be more consistent. And speaking of remotes, I am not a fan of the Siri remote. I think it has to be one of the worst accessories that Apple has ever designed, along with the Magic Mouse that charges from the bottom, or what are some other things that Apple really I don't know, but I really think it's the opposite of what a good physical remote design should be. And I can tell you that my plastic remote for my LG TV with all those buttons that at a glance it may look ridiculous, it's actually a remote that I love because it's designed for humans. It's designed for people. And so I wish that Apple opened up an official remote API that allowed third-party manufacturers to make their own physical, made for Apple TV, I guess, remotes. Like I want to buy an Apple TV. I want to buy an Apple TV remote made by LG with a bunch of buttons. I don't care. Give me buttons. Don't give me a touchpad. Don't give me, the super minimalistic aesthetic that I cannot feel in the dark, right? Because that remote must have been designed like in a white room years ago in perfect lighting conditions. I just want to have a remote that I can sloppily use and throw around, and don't fear that it'll slip through my pillows and I will not find it again. Or I don't want a remote that if I just very so gently brush my hand against it, it doesn't pause my video, right? It doesn't accidentally do something. Like, give me a plastic thing that is sturdy and reliable and stupid to use, but that just, I can intuitively use like a stupid human being instead of a perfect object, this artifact of elegance that doesn't actually work because humans are inherently sloppy and stupid. So,
well, the thing that drives me a little bit crazy about the remote too is the fact that it's not connected until you press a button. So oftentimes you have to press but you don't really know whether it's connected. So sometimes you have to press a button to kind of activate it and make it work with your TV, with your Apple TV. And other times, it's already connected. So now you've just done something that you don't want to do. Now I know that that's like a battery saving feature, and boy, the Apple TV remote really does last a long time on a single charge for such a small object. But still, that aspect of it really drives me bananas too.
Yeah. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh yeah, this one. So the screensavers that you get with the Apple TV. So both Ginger, my dog, and I fundamentally hate the underwater screensaver with the underwater sea creatures, including like the squid. Yeah. They are horrifying. I do not understand who thought that putting those ugly creatures on an Apple TV would be a good idea. Some screensavers are beautiful. You have the aerial screensavers with the cityscapes, and you have the natural landscapes, and you have the airports seen from above. You have the skyline of these huge cities. Those are beautiful. And then you have the underwater fish thing, which is so ugly and gross and scary. Every time it comes on, Ginger starts staring at the TV. Like, she sits on the bed and she stares at the TV until it's gone. And I just think it creeps me out, and it's gross. And I so wish that I could remove it, but I can't, because there's no setting to say, of all these screensavers, cycle through these specific ones and never show me the underwater thing. If it were up to me, I would always cycle through the airport and the cities from above and the international space stations. Those are the best ones. Let me get rid of the underwater thing with the squid, because it's ugly and gross.
You're okay with those as long as they're cooked and on a plate, right? But not when you have to watch them swimming around in the ocean.
Literally the only thing squids are good for.
All right.
I don't even like Splatoon, the Nintendo game with the squid. I don't even that. I don't even play that. So,
all right.
Fish is for cooking, not for looking
All right.
at.
They don't bother me to the same degrees, but I do think we should have an option to pick and choose which screensavers we want to see. Let me round out my picks with a couple of more too. Access to external media right inside the TV app. It brings in information and videos and things from other apps and other services. Why not let it also bring in your Plex library too? So you have a more comprehensive view of what you're watching, not just what you're watching on services you subscribe to, but also what you're watching of things you've maybe downloaded from YouTube or whatever it happens to be. I really don't think Apple will ever do that, but I'd still like to have it. It'd be a nice option. I like to occasionally, I don't use Plex a ton, but I would like to have some of those things that I've saved recently, in a little playlist that I could see. Oh, here's like a couple of music videos that I downloaded this week, and now I have them in my watch later section, just like I do the next TV show that I'm going to watch. All right, Federico. Well, I think that is good. A bunch of good wishes, both for watchOS and tvOS. We've still got the Mac and iOS to go, so we'll have those before we get to WWDC. But good discussion today. I want to thank our two sponsors again for this episode. That's Backblaze and Linode. And you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico is on Twitter and Instagram. He's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees, JOHN VOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.